Former top federal prosecutor Glenn Kirschner predicts that when Donald Trump is convicted in the Washington, D.C. federal criminal case, that Trump will be going to prison. Glenn Kirschner says that he doesn't believe that Judge Tanya Chutkan's going to come up with some alternative solution like putting him on house arrest. No. He says that a memorandum of understanding will be developed with the Bureau of Prisons and find a way that Donald Trump serves the rest of his life in jail. I'm Ben Meiselas. This is the MeidasTouch Network. I want to show you two portions of the interview between Glenn Kirschner and Michael Cohen, where Kirschner said this moment. We posted it just very recently on some other social media accounts. I want to play it here because we hadn't posted it on YouTube yet. It's gone viral. Lots of people are talking about it, and it echoes exactly what we've said here. Judge Tanya Chutkan is no nonsense. She's not going to be cutting Donald Trump slack when Donald Trump is convicted in Washington, D.C. I want to play you first this portion of the interview between Cohen and Kirschner, and then there is another portion as well. So first, watch what Glenn Kirschner says here. He says that, no, Chutkan's going to remand this guy into custody. Play the clip.
So one of the things that gives me some comfort is with Donald Trump facing 91 felony charges across 4 jurisdictions, he's being prosecuted up and down the Eastern Seaboard. He will be convicted in courtroom after courtroom after courtroom. He will receive what is tantamount to several life sentences. And you can only confine a man for but one life. So when you ask the question, well, what about a perjury charge in New York because he lied and said he was talking about you, which doesn't make any sense to any thinking person, right? You can only confine a man for but one life. And I think we have to keep our eyes on the prize. And the prize is holding Donald Trump accountable for trying to bring an end to our democracy, trying to override and overturn the expressed will of the American voters and keep himself installed in power criminally for a second term. That's the prize. All of the other cases will get tried eventually. He will be convicted if he opts not to start entering into some kind of agreements. Because once he's convicted in that first case, and I do believe not only that he'll be convicted pretty easily on the evidence in the DC case, I believe Judge Chutkan will sentence him to a lengthy prison term. And I do not believe she will leave him on release pending trial. So he will actually see the inside of a jail cell. There's an off chance he sees it before the trial if this gag order gets put back in place and he keeps endangering the witnesses, the court staff, the prosecutors, the jurors, and everybody else involved in the endeavor to try to hold him accountable for his crimes. But so after that, like, I try not to get all wrapped around the axle over Judge Cannon and the way she continues to show her lack of impartiality and her poor judicial temperament and her lack of understanding of, you know, what a judge is supposed to be all about. That case may, you know, suffer the death of 1,000 continuances, but I'm less concerned about that. It's important if we have high government officials violating our nation's espionage laws, which are some of the charges against Donald Trump. It's important, and we have to get around to prosecuting it, but it will all begin to melt away and be of less concern once Donald Trump is convicted in the first criminal case, including charges like perjury that could otherwise have been brought.
And then later in the interview, Cohen asks Glenn Kirschner, again, former top federal prosecutor, the question again of, do you think Donald Trump will go to prison? I know you all been asking this. Do you think Trump's going to go to prison, or you think it's going to be just some sort of house arrest where he gets to hang out in Mar-a-Lago and play golf but just can't leave? No, Kirschner says he thinks Chutkan will sentence him basically what will be a life sentence, and Trump will be behind bars for the rest of his life. And a deal will be worked out with the Secret Service and the Bureau of Prisons to make sure that happens. And Secret Service will then relinquish any protection over Donald Trump when Trump is convicted on these multiple felony counts. Play the clip.
Do you actually think that they'll put him behind bars, or do you think it's going to be a very significant or a very severe type of a home confinement? no internet. He's not going to be going playing golf. Okay, maybe he'll have food brought in, but he will be treated like a prisoner, but it will be in one of his properties and not Mar-a-Lago. It would have to be its own freestanding property. And he has like 2 houses or 3 houses across the street, one of which was his sister, Judge Barry, who just passed away. He bought that house. They could easily turn that into a home confinement scenario. Because me personally, and I said it on TV the other day, I would be very concerned for America's national security if Donald was in a prison situation. Not that the sight or the thought of it with the clinking doors that stays in your head forever, and the sound of the keys jingling, while you're trying to sleep as the correctional officers walk past you at night, flashing lights in your eyes. The fact that that's even a possibility makes me smile. However, I'm more concerned about America and the national security secrets that he has in his head, including national security secrets that he's already shown people. That's already been, he showed it to that Australian billionaire over at Mar-a-Lago. He showed it to individuals in the library over at Mar-a-Lago, or in his study, whatever you call that place. I'm afraid that he will disclose information that should not be disclosed. And then the last part of that question, if he does end up in a facility, does he get Secret Service protection there?
So first of all, somebody who tried to overturn American democracy needs to be punished. Any future aspiring dictator needs to be deterred from trying it all over again. That's why Donald Trump needs to go to prison for what he did. Not home confinement, which is like sentencing somebody to binge watch Netflix and order DoorDash. That will not deter tomorrow's aspiring dictators. And they are out there, right? The whole Republican Party, not the whole. There have been a couple of holdouts.
But in all fairness, Glenn, he gets a little bit of a pass because the aspiring dictator doesn't and was not briefed for 4 straight years on national security information. So there's a big difference.
So, but if that gives him a pass, what we are saying is that we can never, ever punish a former president. He's already compromised our national security in 1,000 ways. I'm more concerned about preserving American democracy and doing everything we can to deter tomorrow's dictator, aspiring dictator, wannabe autocrat like Donald Trump from doing it all over again. If Donald Trump gets to hold hostage whatever national security secrets he may still have that he hasn't yet divulged and use that as a get out of free jail card, well, then guess what? There's no hope for American democracy. He needs to go to prison. He needs to be punished. We need to deter tomorrow's aspiring dictator. And he can go to prison. You know how many protected witnesses, including in RICO prosecutions, we successfully confined while they were cooperating? It is not hard to do.
Does he get Secret Service protection?
No, I don't believe so. And here's why. I've talked to some people, not in the Secret Service, but former Bureau of Prisons folks and former U.S. Marshals. And the U.S. Marshal Service runs the long-term witness security program outside of the prison system and inside of the prison system. So I think they will enter into a memorandum of understanding with the BOP and the U.S. Marshal Service, and the Secret Service will relinquish their protective services. That's our best guess, talking about people who used to be inside the system. But it doesn't matter. That's a minor detail that can be worked out, even by statute if need be. Of course, passing new laws in this Republican clown show is not really in the cards. But he has to go to prison. If we care about democracy and the future of it, he has to go to prison for his democracy-busting crimes. That's the only way to deter tomorrow's aspiring dictator.
And you know why? You know why, Glenn?
I do know why.
Because justice matters.
That's very catchy. That's what I was thinking.
Exactly.
And here's the thing, folks, that I want to remind you of as well. Who will be the key witnesses in the Washington, D.C. federal case, right? The key witnesses are going to be Donald Trump's former chief of staff, Republican Mark Meadows. Another key witness is going to be Donald Trump's former vice president, Mike Pence. Another key witness is going to be the Secretary of State of Georgia, Brad Raffensperger. Another key witness, I think, is going to be Donald Trump's, no one's talking about this one, Donald Trump's former Attorney General, Bill Barr, who I believe is going to get up there and testify against Donald Trump. It's going to be Republican leader after Republican leader who worked with, who's us? Donald Trump's lawyers are going to show up and testify. By the way, Glenn Kirschner has an interesting view as well that I share about the advice of counsel defense, that if Donald Trump's going to try to throw his lawyers under the bus, he's got to make a claim to the advice of counsel defense in the next few weeks or so. I think it's a early January deadline that Trump has to do. But then you waive attorney-client privilege. And we don't think that I agree with Kirschner here. I don't think Trump's going to do that. Here, play this clip.
Oh, I think he'll throw everybody under the bus if he thinks it's in his interest to do it. I don't think he's going to end up going with an advice of counsel defense, but it really doesn't matter if he does one way or another. If he does, the consequences are the attorney-client privilege evaporates, and everything his attorneys said to him and everything he said to his attorneys will now be fair game for Jack Smith and can be used against him at trial. But here's the thing. Here's the reason the advice of counsel dog won't hunt for Donald Trump. First of all, we have seen the reporting about how Jack Smith was investigating Rudy Giuliani for potentially being intoxicated, drunk, on and around January 6th when he was giving Donald Trump legal advice. One, there is no such thing as advice of drunk counsel defense. That won't work. Two, Donald Trump told Kristen Welker, I didn't really listen to my lawyers. I listened to my own instincts. Guess what? There is no advice of your own instincts defense. That's number two. Number three, so many of Donald Trump's lawyers are his partners in crime. They're his co-defendants. They're his co-conspirators in Georgia. So many of them have pleaded guilty already. And if advice of drunk counsel is bad and advice of my own instincts is bad, probably the worst defense of all is advice of my co-conspirators defense. There is no such thing. Anywhere Donald Trump turns, he loses. So I don't think he'll formally try to assert an advice of counsel defense, but if he do, it will be a dead loser.
And folks, there you have it. And again, make sure you subscribe to the new Mea Culpa feed, the blue Mea Culpa feed right there, not the red Mea Culpa feed, wherever podcasts are available. Thanks, Glenn Kirschner, for joining Michael Cohen as a guest. Appreciate all of your support here. Hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2 million subscribers. Thanks to your support. Have a good one.
At MeidasTouch, we are unapologetically pro-democracy, and we demand justice and accountability. That's why we're spreading our message to Convict 45. That's right, gear up right now with your Convict 45 tees and pins at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.